What is up, guys? Frugal BC here, and we have got a show for you today. A little mishap this morning. I forgot to put the starting soon screen on, so you saw me setting up the stream, which is kind of interesting. But it's not the end of the world. Not the end of the world. I've been going back and trimming that part anyway. I know some people kind of complained about the long start. I don't know why. What is it really that hard to just hit the skip button? I don't know. It seems a little strange to me, but you know, whatever. Some people are going to complain no matter what you do. Yeah, so we got this going out live on YouTube, on X, and on Kick. So if you're watching on any of those platforms, welcome to the show. Some major news to talk about today. So we're going to get into that very big news that I think is going to have a huge impact on altcoins. And that is a change in how the SEC is handling ETF filings. Massively streamlined. We will dive into that news. We're going to talk about that. Going to make a little Algorand Solana comparison today. We'll dive into that. I know it. Every time I do something like that, it really sets people off, and so we'll dive. I got to check out a couple of them pegged, and we'll look at those on stream. So that'll be a lot of fun. Also, a nice healthy dose of Chainlink news and Ondo Finance news. And by the way, I discovered something recently. So I wondered. Now, I usually designate these streams as a podcast, and apparently you can go to the... I didn't know what that actually did. I was very confused for a long time about what that actually meant when you designate it as a podcast. Well, it turns out when you go to the music app, so if you download the Apple Music app, and if you find the Frugal BC podcast channel, it'll actually play in the background. So you can play it, you can watch the video, and then you can switch back between the video and then just listening to it on audio when you go around out about your day, which is really awesome. I might actually start listening to more podcasts that way, because it's pretty cool that you can switch back and forth between video and audio, and you can do it really seamlessly, which is neat. That was one of the problems I always had with Spotify. Like I was like, why wouldn't you have it so you just hit a button and go back and forth between the video and audio? I could never really understand that. You know, Spotify was trying to present themselves like they were leading the way in podcasting, and I couldn't really understand why no one is calling them out on it, because I think it's just awful. So I just was never happy. I actually completely stopped using Spotify. I'm all about the YouTube music. I do wish they maybe did it a little less frequently than they had been, you know, instead of the ads, like every song, maybe every couple of songs, or front load it. I also don't think 15-second unskippable ads in music seems like pretty unforgivable. Green Blue Algo in the chat saying sup Bishies. I gotta be careful how I say that. Welcome, Green Blue Algo. Glad to have you here. And by the way, new 1-year anniversary with my very lovely girlfriend and talented girlfriend. So I'm going to celebrate a little tonight. That'll be fun. But before we do that, we got to get through all this great crypto news. And unfortunately, we got a little pullback, so we're going to look at the markets. That's a bummer. But anyway, yeah, I've been going back through. And so if you watch these on replay, if you wait a few days, you'll be able to see them without that intro. But the problem is, once you trim it, it takes a really long time to trim, and you can't do any clipping. And I usually clip from my YouTube channel, or from I clip from inside the YouTube thing. So Everyday Algonaut in the chat saying GM. What's up, Everyday Algonaut? Good to have you here, buddy. Yeah, so I usually do that last. So I take all my clips from the live video, and then I go back through, and then I trim it. So, but again, you know, I just don't. What's so hard about skipping ahead a little bit? You just hit the skip button until you find it. I've done that on live videos all the time. Like if I want to watch the live video. So, yeah. So we're gonna get into all that. Before we do that, I want to give a big shout out to our sponsor, Haystack. Haystack is the app that allows you to trade so much easier on crypto than any other app out there. It's just so simple to use, and you can find my referral code in the description. So if you want to use it, you can check that out right in the description. Haystack is made by the very capable Transaction Labs folks who designed the ready pools that I've been using, and the non-fungible domains. As you know, it's frugalbc.algo. And always happy to take super chats on YouTube. But if you have an Algorand wallet, you can always send me tips that way too. And if you give me If you let me know that you did it, I can give you a shout out on stream. Very happy to do that. Let's see. We got Everyday Algorand saying, doing great. How are you? I'm really great. 1 month anniversary with my very lovely girlfriend. So life is good. B Trader in here saying, hey, BC, what is up, B Trader? Good to have you here. Got a nice little healthy chat today. I like to see that. And we do have a little contest usually going on. Now, Gary had been talking about maybe funding that contest and actually awarding dollars. I'm a little concerned about that, though, because it seems hard to get the it seems hard to get people to, well, it always says 75, like it's not differentiated enough. That's the concern I have. So not sure if we're going to do that content at all. Green Blue Algo says, don't you think that the end of the cycle will be theater if this time is different? If they fake out the November rug pull, a lot of people will still sell. I'm not sure what you mean by theater. I don't know what that means. If they fake out the November rug pull. What I really think is fourth quarters are always very good for crypto, almost always. And I think we have some really good times ahead. We're going to dive into that. We're going to look at the top indicators as well. So we'll get into that. And before we do that, I do also want to give a shout out to Marcus Aurelius, which is a meme coin, an NFT project on the Algorand blockchain. And you should really check them out on YouTube. They got some great YouTube videos focused on Stoicism. I'm a big fan of Stoicism myself. And Marcus Aurelius is absolutely dedicated to that. Catlin Guzman saying, GM, congrats on the anniversary. I appreciate that, my friend. Appreciate you being here. Catlin's an OG. He's been watching my live stream since way back, 2-3 years ago. So glad to have you here this morning. Appreciate it. Joe Bro says Chainlink to the moon. Chainlink ETF to the moon. I agree. Well, Chainlink to the moon in general. Big fan of Chainlink. And we got some good news on that ETF front that we're going to get to. So we got a lot of segments to get through. Going to be a busy day. That's why I wanted to get started a little bit early. Oops, sorry. I screwed up. I should have muted my mic. Big news for that. We got a lot of stuff to get to. That's why I wanted to start a little bit earlier. I don't see the end of the cycle anytime soon as Wall Street money are flooding the crypto ecosystem. I'm just not worried that algo will be included as I don't see any new VCs in the algo ecosystem. Well, we'll see. We're going to get into that ETF news, and I think it will be ultimately good for Algorand, but it might take a little while, and I'll explain more about that when we get there. So let's see. I'm actually going to leave my YouTube. So I just put my NFT in the chat. Obviously, you don't have to worry about that if you don't want to. Some people just might like to super chat that way versus going through YouTube because they take a really big cut. It's actually, God, I swear it was like 50%. I'm like, why are you taking that much? It was money sent to me, you know. I don't mind them taking a little cut. They're facilitating it, but that seems like really bad. So anyway, but either way, I'm happy. So and you know, you're free to watch the stream and not donate. That's fine. But some people like to. Well, without further ado, why don't we get to this? Markets here, because interesting stuff. Before we do that, though, if you have not liked the channel already, please hit that like button. As I always say, hey, you don't have to smash it. You can just press it gently. It works just fine that way too. And it helps get the channel out here. It helps get this live stream out here, because that's one of the things YouTube does that doesn't work very well, is they're not very good at promoting live streams. Although actually they're better than Twitch or Kick, to be honest. So definitely feel free to hit the like button. It'll help show the channel to more people. And if you haven't already subscribed, well, you know, feel free to do so. We like having more subscribers. That's always good. Well, let's see here. Did I forget anything? Oh, we do have channel memberships starting at only $1. And you can also gift memberships. Now, what do you get for a channel member? Well, $1 gets you videos a few hours ahead of everyone else. And if you go to the $4 tier, that $3.99 tier, that gets you videos that no one else gets, including early looks at my experiments. I'll probably make a video on that later in the week, but right now, people this week got my new experiment, and they found out the early results. So definitely feel free to check that out. Okay, now we will get to the charts. I really got to get hold on. I'm just going to do this. I'll make this one my shiny boomer rocks doing well. I don't know what that is. That's funny though. We'll scroll down. You know, we'll scroll down to make sure. Let's see. Get right about there. I'm gonna make me really small on this here. There we go. Now you can see everything. This will be the one we use for charts from now on. Okay, Bitcoin pulling back a little bit. Now we had hit that 17,000, hitting some resistance around that level, and we really need to cross through that if we're going to get an all-time high. So, you know, but the markets generally this morning, except for a few exceptions, are pulling back. Let's see what the exceptions are. Let's go to that. Which Near Protocol at 314. Now Near Protocol was at like $7, so we got a ways to go before we recover a lot of territory. But it is nice to see it on the rise up, and 16% on the week, really good. Story IP, don't know anything about that. World Liberty Financial, I believe that's associated with the Trump administration. AVAX doing well. Immutable X, I used to play Green, gold and silver. Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, my dad, it's funny, my dad is really into gold, and he was buying gold mining stocks and gold ETFs and things like that. And I'm like, well, you know, the principle behind Bitcoin is exactly the same, except no shiny rocks, digital money. Look at that, 48%. Immutable X, 48% on the week. Who else has done that? Something called Aster. Yeah, I noticed that was in the charts. That's really interesting. But yeah, it was Immutable X #2 on the 7-day, which is crazy. And then Pump.Fun, I'm just not a fan. But yeah, nice to see Near Protocol up here. Anyone else doing? Monero, interesting. Polkadot, we got Bitcat, PancakeSwap, MemeCore. Oh, by the way, guys, let me know, because supposedly YouTube changed its live streaming. So the way it works now is supposedly they're going to play ads like covering half the screen instead of just like completely knocking you out, to, you know, make it a little more visible. So let me know if you see those kinds of ads, because I'm curious if it's live. Yeah, otherwise not much to report there. Who's leading on the 24-hour? Like Near Protocols at the top, which is a pretty short list. Everything's pulling back this morning, so we'll probably see a bounce up a little later. And then I'm going to zoom out. I'm going to zoom back out in a little bit to look at some of the stuff on the top here. Market cap down a little bit. Coin market cap 20 down 2%, which is about what the full market cap is. Fear greed index is still neutral, so that's a really key metric. It just kind of shows sentiment. And then altcoin season, we are definitely leaning toward altcoin now. For the longest time, we were stuck on the Bitcoin one. Then we were neutral. So this is compared to last week. Last week, we were still around neutral. And as far as crypto RSI, we're kind of right in that middle, which is really interesting. Sean Vogel in the chat saying, hey, yo, and Algo to the moon. I agree. Green Blue Algo says knocked out ad already. Okay, so it's showing the regular kind of ads. It sounds like that new ad style maybe isn't live yet, but they're supposed to be coming soon. The one thing I didn't see is like the fact, I really think they should shoot out live video to more people, because I really think they could just eat Twitch's lunch or Kick, and I'm on Kick. Everyday Algorand says, I think we should educate people that the tokenized gold is even better because you can make more gold in DeFi. For example, if you would put into the AMM the meld gold with ASA gold token. Yeah, you can make more money in DeFi. You can also lose it through impermanent loss. That kind of happened with my Ethereum play. I have my Ethereum on Algorand, so I can deal with it a lot easier. Anyway, like I said, RSI down in that middle zone, which is interesting. Let's see now. Let's see if I can pull this up. No, let me see. Coin. Okay, I might have to Google it. Hold on. Wait, maybe. Okay, nope. Hold on. Indicators. Okay, here's the market cycle, crypto market cycle indicators. So this is, I like looking at this one because there's like a series of 30 metrics to use if we're at a top. Still have not hit a single one. So we're still in hold territory. Long ways to go. Here on the rainbow chart, we got a long ways to go on the rainbow chart. Now remember, we're not hitting that red anymore, so you can see that this is, hold me, let me pull this over. Let me pull this over. This is important, this rainbow chart indicator, because as you can see, we're going lower and lower on that rainbow every bull run. So I still think we can get into pretty high territory, but it's going to start leveling off. Yeah, you can just go down and see we have not hit a single one of these top 30 top indicators, these 30 top in market cycle top indicators. Long ways to go. So hold on to your hats. We got a long ways to go. Keep your crypto. Now I do believe in taking some profit. So the last pump we had, I definitely took some profit. I think it's silly not to, frankly, but I just wanted to cover that. We can go now to I really zoomed in there, didn't I? Hold on. Okay, let's go to Vestige and see what's going on there. Quite the lively chat going on here. For two assets which has the same base, you will make money. Yeah, exactly. No, that's true. That's true. That is very true. Everyday Algonaut. Tokenized gold silver will be a big deal, says Green Blue Algo. I wish Meld had local coin shops where you could exchange physical. Yeah, that's a good idea. Also, I want to be sure they aren't basing everything on London paper. Fair. Same as with Bitcoin. If you put in the DeFi wrap Bitcoin and go BTC, you will make more Bitcoin because it's being traded. I think Meld should commit 10K algo to LP pool rewards in Tinyman. Good idea. Speaking of, let's see what we got. Pretty much everything here pulling back too, except for Alpha Arcade, which did 12% over the last 24 hours. That is something. You know, I can actually, will this help? That's a crazy chart. Hold on, I'm going to pull it up off screen here. I just really want to see. Now, I started off my alpha experiment with $100 and 287 right now. And that it wasn't even an experiment on price. I was just collecting USDC. So that's really something. That's really something. I like to see that. Hold on, let me get a drink of water. My voice is already a little shot. So this is really, we're on weekly, but let's go to say, yeah, we'll go to 4 hour. I mean, we were actually much higher. My alpha bag was at like $300 some from 100. Now it's down to 287, but still pretty high. It's been remarkably steady. If we look at the daily chart, it's been steady and then up. Now it's one thing I want to pull up here. I'm going to pull up the Hay algo, the Hay token, because Hay, which just went through its third tranche. Back to weekly. I want to go to, let's go to Haystack took the same tokenomics as Alpha. They took a lot of inspiration from the Alpha tokenomics, and this seems to be a winning formula with buybacks, with really specific ways of handling this. Now, I believe they sold the third tranche at 6 cents, I believe. So we did not get up to that level. But this is a very steady. Now, remember my whole ASA boot that usually happens? That did not happen with Haystack. Actually, it's slowly but surely climbing upwards, which is pretty impressive. FrugalVC says, how many USDCs were collected by the Alpha protocol? I don't know what that means. If you're asking how much it's paid out, it's tended to be about 4 or 5%. And I think it's going to go up as more people use the prediction market. I think you could realistically get to a point where you're earning like maybe 12, 15% because so many people are using it. You get a cut of the fees on Alpha. So if you hold Alpha, you get a cut of the fees that people are paying to use the protocol. And it didn't have that many users. Like a month ago it had, or something, maybe it was 2 months ago, it had like 35 users. So you can imagine that with higher, with higher usage, you get 300 some users. Suddenly the fees become pretty realistic. And then you're getting like a real return on your money. I mean, you could put in like 10K and you could be having like, maybe you're paying your rent with it or something, or at least coming close. Anyway, that's Haystack. Like I said, those two, oops, I went to the wrong one. Gotta go to Explorer. Yeah, we got some new ones. We got 2 different units. I don't know what that's all about. Does it tell us? And then something called corn. Yeah, that's quite the little candle up, whatever that is, unit. Is the native token for the Dorks NFT project and is intended to provide community utility as well as robust LP pairings. Oh, it was bridged from Voy. Interesting. Let's see. Green Blue Algo says, starting to get concerned if folks isn't going to ever happen. Saw the recent excuse video. Well, I thought maybe we can look at that. Gosh, actually, I didn't bookmark that one. I should have. When seeing that video, I thought it sounded like it was coming soon, but I guess I'll have to look a little closer at that. Yeah, otherwise it's just a sea of red. It's a sea of red. Tiny Man seems to be holding about 1.2 cents in that range. I used to say I like this coin because it was trading between 2.5 and 5 cents, and it hasn't been anywhere near that for a while. So that's one of the reasons I'm happy to be doing Ready Pool now. It's just simpler. I can see exactly how much I'm earning. I know the exact amount. And that's just far more valuable to me. I don't know. I heard some people trashing on Liquid Hog. I don't really know anything about it. I just, if it isn't associated with something solid, I just am not that interested in it. Why don't we go to, let's go look at some Hedera coins. And then we can get to our, oops, I'm up a little bit on that. Actually, I'm gonna do this one instead. We can zoom in a little bit here. Yeah, it's kind of a bloodbath, except for Dovu. I heard some good stuff about Dovu. I'm not gonna do a Hedera segment, and then Dino, probably Dino. Let's see. Everyday Algorand says, I think the largest pool I see there is like 8K USD. And so if the protocol fees are 1%, they have 80% distribution for months. If they distribute 5% of $80, distribute $4 to all token holders. I don't. Well, it's the fees for people using the protocol. So they're bringing in fees because people pay a fee to use the protocol. So it's not about, I'm not doing it on DeFi. This is, if you hold the token, they pay you a cut of the fees. So that has nothing, whatever you're talking about has nothing to do with what I'm saying. Okay. We should look into, maybe we'll look into Dofu a little bit, but that's having a really good 13%. This is 24 hours, by the way. So if you're a holder of Dovu, things are really good. Or Dino, everything else is down, especially Karate Combat token. I actually like the Karate Combat token. I think it's really fun. Karate Combats are like, I actually rather watch. I'd rather watch Karate Combat than UFC. Okay, let's go to... Well, we went through the markets, so I think we'll get to our segments. So let me set those up. Give me a second. Hope everyone's doing well out there, by the way. Hope your bags are doing well. I finally figured out the... Well, part of it's figuring it out. Part of... Did I save this? We should watch this. There's a really good segment about Gary Gensler that I'm going to share. We'll watch that when we do our... In fact, we'll do that news first. Let me find it. Oh, it's my own. I almost forgot it was my own post. Trey Thompson says Dovu is interesting. Yeah, I haven't looked super deep into a lot of the Hedera secondary coins, but some of them are very interesting. Yeah, so I'm going to set up this next segment because we're going to get into the SEC situation, which is super interesting. Actually, I'm not going to use... Hold on. I'm not going to use my thread. Let me set this up. That ought to bring it up. Okay, so rules for when I do these segments is that I go through the segment, and I generally, when I'm in the middle of a segment, because I make these so I can clip them, I usually don't respond to chat unless it's directly related to the segment. And even then, I might wait a little bit for a good spot to bring it in. So you can keep chatting all you want. You don't have to be silent. Chat all you want. It's just I won't be able to respond to them until after the segment. Or if they're related to the segment, I'll chat in the middle of that. So that's our thing. Let me grab a thing of water, and then we will start this segment. Now, people like you and me, we know that we can go buy crypto on an exchange or in other methods, and we don't have a problem doing that. But for people who aren't crypto native, they might not like to do it. So ETFs are a great way for traditional investors to get involved in crypto. But the SEC has always been one of the holdups. Well, that is about to change because the SEC just approved new exchange listing standards that will fast track crypto ETF listings. So why don't we dive into this news? This is right from The Block. So the quick take is in a filing made on Wednesday, the SEC said it found good cause to approve of the standards early. The SEC's approval is a significant turn of events for dozens of crypto ETFs awaiting the agency's sign-off and would accelerate that process. The U.S. Securities and Exchange Commission approved an accelerated basis listing standards for crypto exchange-traded funds, quickly setting the stage for those products to be ready for public trading. In a filing made on Wednesday, the SEC said it found good cause to approve the standards early. The Commission finds good cause to approve the proposals prior to the 30th day after the date of the publication of notice of the exchange's amended filings in the Federal Register. That is a mouthful, by the way. But basically, yeah, they're giving it the go-ahead. The amended filings clarify the definitions set forth in and the requirements of the proposed generic listing standards. In other words, instead of looking at every single one and basically starting from the beginning, going all the way back and starting over on each one, they're just going to have a set of standards. And if you meet that standards, you get fast-tracked. Pretty simple. It kind of makes sense to, be efficient. Surprise, surprise, right? Like you would think this would be obvious, but it took a whole brand new administration to make this happen. exchanges NASDAQ, New York Stock Exchange ARCA Inc., and Cboe BZX Exchange, I never heard of that one, have previously asked the agency to change a rule to permit the generic listing and trading of commodity-based trust shares that meet the requirements set forth in proposed Rule 14.11e. That rule governs the trading and listing of commodity-based trust shares and has specific requirements to have certain shares listed on the exchange. This approval helps maximize the investor choice and foster innovation by streamlining and the listing process and reducing barriers to access digital asset products within America's trusted capital markets, says SEC Chairman Paul Atkins in a statement. The SEC's approval is a significant turn of events for dozens of crypto ETFs waiting the agency's sign-off and will accelerate that process. Firms have been looking to list funds tracking SOL to XRP to Doge in the wake of friendlier regulatory environments. I don't think they mention, but one of the standards is that you have to be on Coinbase futures. That's one of the standards that will fast track you here. I'm surprised they didn't mention that, actually. That's really kind of surprising, to not give that. That's pretty important info, because the ones that are already in futures on Coinbase, those will get fast tracked. Why we don't see that is surprising in here. And that it's not good for, if you're an Algorand person, you're like, well, I don't think we're on futures. There's only like 20 coins or something like that. The Wolf of Wall Streets had a really good point. Under current rules, exchanges must file, here's triggering a review period of up to 240 days. The new listing standards will reduce the timeline to as little as 75 days and allow the listing and trading of crypto exchange traded products that meet those standards without the 19B4 form requirement. Green Blago says, can't wait until the token ETFs are tokenized. Yeah, that'll be awesome. It'll be great to have this going. And a note on Tuesday, Matt Hogan, Chief Investment Officer at crypto asset manager Bitwise, said the listing standards could blow the market wide open. Nice to see. Yeah, I think 100%, because you're gonna have so many people, so many companies putting assets on, putting their money into these assets. There's a whole bunch of people that just aren't, as Scott Melker mentioned this morning. There's a whole lot of people. They're just not gonna go to Coinbase. They just don't want to. They're definitely not going to get a wallet. They're not even going to go on Coinbase. They're not even going to deal with an exchange, but they can put this in a mutual fund, and that, they kind of understand. The SEC also said on Wednesday that it approved the listing and trading for the Grayscale Digital Large Cap Fund. The agency had previously put a pause on Grayscale's move to convert the fund. That ETF trades over the counter for accredited investors and is composed primarily of Bitcoin at mostly 80%. Ethereum at 11, Solana, Cardano, and XRP are also represented with single-digit percentages. By the way, I just want to take a little sidetrack to mention this. The whole accredited investor thing is one of the dumbest things in finance. Do you know what that actually means? Now, I used to think when I was first getting into investing, I thought, well, gee, how do I become an accredited investor? It must be some kind of test you take or some kind of online form. It literally just means you have money. Yeah, so you have to have, in fact, we can go look it up, the exact numbers, but it basically means you either have a certain net worth, or you have a certain amount of income. It's like 250,000, I think. Requirements. 200,000, 300,000 if you have a spouse, or you have a net worth of $1 million, and that does not include your primary residence. Oops, sorry about that. Yeah, it is seriously one of the dumbest things. So if I have an income of over $200,000, that doesn't mean I know jack squat about investing. I can lose just as much money. In fact, I have more to lose than someone without that. And same with the $1 million. I just don't understand that. I've never understood that rule. I think it's just one of the dumbest things in all of finance. Make a test. If you want to, first off, why just limit people anyway, right? And if I can go put money on Coinbase, why can't I put money in private capital? Like, that's crazy. But even without that, who cares? Like, just make a test. If you want to regulate it, then just make some kind of test where you have to have a basic understanding of how risk works. You know what I mean? And I'll tell you, like, there are a lot of people who just, I had a friend who got a Robinhood account, and she invested, lost money in a month, and just was like, I'm done. I don't want to invest anymore. And I'm like, well, that's because you did it the dumbest way. Like, first start out with index funds and get used to that, because that's like the lowest risk. And you can still, that will kind of ease you into getting used to the feeling that sometimes your money's going to go down, and you have to be okay with that when you're investing. Crypto is like that on steroids. Like, you have to be able to watch your portfolio go down like 60%, you know, and you have to look at that and go, buying opportunity. And that's easier to say here than it is here, because in here you're like, no, I'm used to it. When the COVID crash happened, I just kept investing right through it. And you know what? That got me into a brand new category. I'll say that. I won't put too much out there beyond that, but that's the way you got to think. So I will say, I really like this new approach from the SEC. I think the new approach is doing things correctly. And this is what I want to see. I don't want government telling me what I can and can't invest in. I do want the government to make sure things are being done right, but I don't want them to put unnecessary roadblocks, if that makes sense. So good on the SEC, good on the new administration. I think this is a really great thing for crypto. Everyday Algorand says, actually in the EU, they force money institution to make a test, and the test must be tricky so that there's at least one question which repeats, and if you fail it, they deny you some services. Well, I mean, they got to make it reasonable, right? Like, just some basics. Just make it. I don't want any trick questions. That's a very valid concern. I don't want trick questions with something like that. I want it to be very straightforward. Just understand investing. Like, if they're going to do that, if they're going to have an accredited investor, make it so like it actually makes sense, you know? Just teaching like the very basics, like how an index fund works, you know, how percentages work, you know, what is risky versus not risky. I don't know. They could come up with a bunch of stuff, you know. What's an index fund versus an individual stock? I mean, just easy questions that anyone who has basic understandings of investing could do. Anyway, that's my thought on that. But you know, they can just do away with it too. I don't really understand the point. It's like, if you have more money, you have more ability to get ripped off. More people are going to target you. It doesn't mean you know more. You know, it might. I mean, it takes a lot to build up wealth, but it can also be handed to you, right? Like, if I get an inheritance tomorrow of $1 million, my investor knowledge didn't change overnight. In fact, people who inherit money probably have the least amount of knowledge. Anyway, I'm going off here. So, okay, that's that segment. Actually, I'm not done yet, because we got something really cool to share. So I have to be careful with this one because it auto plays, but this is a good part of the. Actually kind of roasted him a little bit. I thought this was pretty. I enjoyed this. This was really great. Let's see what old Gary. Remember how much we used to like hate on Gary? Let's see what old Gary had to say for himself.
They are reversing a lot of what you did. And how are you feeling about what they're doing now?
So I'm very proud of what we accomplished.
And the crypto community is ecstatic not to have you there anymore, and to have him there. Looking back on it, I mean, do you think that was the right call?
Yes, I think.
Because look, now we have this like burgeoning industry, and there's so much more innovation and leadership in the U.S.
and a lot more
crypto.
capital coming into it.
There may be more capital in terms of the interest in the public. The public is interested. I get that. But for investors.
You think this is dangerous, what they're doing?
Put aside Bitcoin. But most of the other tokens are not tied to any fundamentals. Like Warren Buffett would say, what are the goods? What are the revenues? What are they selling? And so forth.
Oh, that makes me, that delights me to know. And seeing Gary get roasted, always super fun. Here every day saying no sound. Is that true? I see the mic going. I see the desktop audio going. I wasn't playing the video yet. Easy way to find out here. That was our only video segment. Hold on, let me see. I see the mic going. I see the desktop audio going.
There may be more capital.
I kind of roasted him a little bit. I thought this was pretty nice with the sound, so I don't know. I enjoyed this. Okay. This was really good. Anyway, Green Blue Algo says Gary gathered up the troops to tell them not to invest in crypto at 7K mark below. Yeah, absolutely. Made a great buying opportunity for us. That's a really good point. So yeah, yeah. My average buy was like how much did I? Oh, just went out for a few seconds before the video. Okay. Okay, Joe Bro says it had audio. Yeah. Yeah, I don't know what happened there. I didn't hit the mic or anything, I didn't think, but well, that's our little segment. You can see the contrast between Gary Gensler. When you started to speak, your mouth was moving but no sound. When you put your headphones, it was good again. Oh, okay. Yeah, someone else mentioned that too, so it sounded like there was a little issue there, but as long as it's only one little part, that's good. So, okay. All right, that segment is done. By the way, before I get to our next segment, I actually bought a pigeon puff. In fact, let me see if I can find my pigeon puff. Here, I'll show you this. It's going to show you this pigeon puff that I bought here. And apparently allows me to earn some money on playing the Ghetto Pigeons game, which I downloaded. I have to play it a little more. It actually, like, the one thing I didn't like is it filled the full screen, and then I had to like restart my computer to get it to go away. So I don't know what the deal was with that. I had some issues with setting up the payments. We'll get into that, but yeah, I thought this was kind of cool. You know, it looks like a neat looking little pigeon there. It's Brazil. I like Brazil. That's cool. Got eating a little pizza, eating a little za. Good for that. Anyway, set up the next segment. What should we do? Should we do Ondo? So the great thing is now I'm using the bookmarks. Maybe we'll do our Chainlink one. I really got to stop drinking. I'm sorry. Maybe we'll start with this one. Okay. So we're starting our next segment. As a reminder, I usually don't address chat during the segment. I do it afterwards. But unless it's relevant to what we're talking about, then I'll incorporate it into the segment. So that's all good. But in the meantime, why don't we look at this? We'll get to this Chainlink segment. So give me a sec. Okay. For my followers who follow Algorand, we're already well familiar with governance and how it works and how it's changed, because a lot of stuff has changed with Algorand governance over the years. But Chainlink also talking about on-chain governance, and well, we've got Chainlink's CEO founder Sergey talking about governance on Chainlink, and I think this segment is worth taking a look at. So why don't we dive in here? I'm going to put my headphones on again. You can still hear me? I hope so. Let's see what Sergey has to say about on-chain governance.
I would say that the nuance with voting and blockchains in the U.S. Political system is actually much more around identity than it is around using blockchains. I think the interesting nuance in the US is that identity and a federally issued identity is a very sensitive topic. It's a very politically charged topic for both parties. And so before you even process voter rolls, or before you confirm that a voter hasn't switched states and isn't voting twice, so they're not double spending their vote, and before you have ways to guarantee proper node distribution to make sure that voting rolls aren't manipulated, and that external state actors can't get in and manipulate them. Before you get into all those interesting questions, your first question is how are we going to create an identity layer for someone to prove their identity as a registered real voter? And this is a political topic that is very sensitive, that I think, it's not a technology issue. It's a political issue about whether Democrats and Republicans, who both have their own fears about creating identity, even if it was a narrowly focused form of identity on voting, that issue will have to be resolved before you have this back-end technology, blockchains and Oracle networks working together to create a voting system.
With something like that, how far away are we?
That's a really interesting point, by the way, because it's a lot more difficult to do like real voting on chain than just like simple governance voting. Because governance, like, you just care if I have this wallet, I connect to my wallet, the wallet votes, the wallet can't vote again. But how would you? But that doesn't have to be tied to a real person. So if this were to be handled on chain, there's a lot of considerations involved. And the first step, like he's saying, is ID. How do you verify that this is actually this person? Which means like the government has to kind of issue it. And that's something that I think a lot of us would find really concerning. Like, how do you do that in a way that doesn't give the government like way too much power? A very good point. I think he's, the more I see from Sergey, the more I think he's a really smart guy. I think he's got some great ideas, and he really thinks about this stuff on a deep level. I've been saying for years, like, oh, why don't they just put it on chain? But he brings up a lot of points where there's a lot to consider about, especially just voter ID, which tends to lead to a government ID. But let's finish this interview here.
Is the technology already there and it's a matter of the willpower, or is it something that would take some time to develop to make it, ready for use in such a sensitive, significant application?
It's 100% willpower, 100%. Technology is ready to go. Oracle network's ready to go. Some cases, even identity systems, everything's ready to go. It's just a question of how the U.S. government wants to approach the topic of identity. They want to approach the topic of identity for financial transactions in very specific ways. How they want to approach the topic of identity for voting is a very unresolved issue. And that's not an issue that a technology platform or standard or open source way of doing something like identity can resolve. So we can absolutely provide the technology that would enable, highly secure systems using blockchains and Oracle networks to do things like log verification and other key, cybersecurity activities. We can absolutely enable the proper use of data and compliance on chain. And, voting is really just another type of on-chain data that would have to be synchronized across chains.
So that's a really interesting point that he's making. But yeah, I think this stuff is really good to think about, because we think this stuff is super important, and it is. And I think this is a really great use case for crypto, but there's so many considerations that have to go into it. And we're still getting like basic regulatory requirements put in place, which should have been in place a long time ago. But finally, the current administration is at least working on that. Now, Green Blago says Chess Tower ID work. Now that, I think Algorand might have a good argument for doing that. So Algorand helped create the universal ID for world chess that allows you it's basically a passport. So you have all your chess stats and one idea that you can take for different places. That's a good analogy where, something like a Chainlink or Algorand could do that. Joe Bro says poly market Chainlink connection. Yeah, I think we covered that on our last stream and segment that we pulled out. But yeah, that's really awesome. I got some other Chainlink stuff I want to go through. I can take the headphones off now and sound like a normal person again. Well, first off, let's do our Chainlink reserve update. Currently at 323,114 link. That's 43,067 link added this week. They've been adding it about once a week, and we can look at the reserve here. And you can just see how much it's 7.6 million now. And it just keeps going up. It's nice to see. I wish I could change this to dollars. I kind of want to see how much the dollars have gone up over time, but I think this is one of the best ideas. Honestly, I think this is a great idea. I'd love to see Algorand do something like this. They're kind of in the other way. They're kind of going the other way. They're spending algo. I'd like to see them bring algo in and on chain. But the reason they're doing this, for people who don't know, haven't seen our coverage before, the reason Chainlink does this is they're taking off-chain profits. Oops, I just realized. Sorry about that. They're taking off-chain profits and putting them on chain. So they have off-chain services, and what they do is they take those off-chain services and they bring them on chain, which is really cool. Let's go back here. So I just want to give a quick update of the Chainlink reserve. This one's kind of neat here. Advent protocol of 140 million plus TVL DeFi platform offering yield generating strategies. I always like those yield generating strategies. Has integrated Chainlink CCIP to enable highly secure cross-chain transfers of AVE ETH X and Save ETH across Avalanche and Ethereum. Advent has also integrated Chainlink data feeds to support highly accurate, secure, and transparent collateral pricing. So, nice little bridge there between Chainlink and Avant. I don't know much about Avalanche. I haven't used it much. I hear good things, so that's cool. But I don't know a ton about it. Let's see, we got a couple other things. Stablecoins scale with Chainlink, and this is worth pulling out here. Gateway to global stablecoin scalability, a single secure platform stablecoin issuers. 260 billion total value of tokenized assets on public ledgers. 90% of this value is made up of fiat-backed stable coins. They are, according to this, a superior form of the underlying fiat currency represented on chain. CCIP, which is Chainlink, unifies liquidity between blockchains so that stablecoins can move seamlessly across chains. This is where CCIP comes in. They can maintain a unified golden record across chains, a single data container that provides the stablecoin's ownership and key data, all of which is easily verifiable, accessible, and able to be programmed upon by all participants, no matter what the chain, no matter which chain the stablecoin is transferred to. Stablecoin issuers can make their stablecoins programmable, liquid, and transparent through Chainlink. Chainlink is great, and Algorand is not on Chainlink, but Folks Finance is, and that is a connection to Chainlink. But I really like to see them get connected with CCIP. And then we have this adoption update that we can get to. This week, there were 8 integrations of Chainlink standard across 4 services and 6 different chains: Aptos, Base, BitLayer, Ethereum, and Sei. The new integrations are iCroStrategy, Aptos, BitLayer Labs, Polymarket. There you go, Joe Bro. You got it right there. We did talk about it last week, I believe. Sei Network and Stake.link. 1 new automation, 4 new CCIP, 2 new data streams, and 1 new price theme. Someone says, when Algorand? I'm kind of wondering that myself. I really want to see Algorand. You know, I'm a big fan of Algorand. It's like a lot of my content. And I really wish Algorand would get integrated with them. I think it's inevitable at this point. And this last one, actually we got 2 of them. We'll take Chainlink's actual thing here. Saudi Awal Bank, one of Saudi Arabia's largest banks with over 100 billion in total assets, is leveraging several Chainlink services to facilitate the deployment of the next generation on-chain applications in Saudi Arabia. Under the innovation agreement, SAB is accelerating the adoption of on-chain finance across the region by enabling developers to build with Chainlink's cross-chain interoperability protocol and the Chainlink runtime environment. So that's a huge bank in Saudi Arabia. You know, those guys got a lot of money, got all that oil money. And I don't know if you know, but the reason why Decipher in 2022 was in Dubai, that's the Algorand conference, is because a lot of the just a lot of these oil-rich companies or countries. Wow, I'm really doing well today, aren't I? A lot of these oil-rich companies are, you know, they know that they're not going to be able to rely on oil forever. You know, it's going to run out at some point. So a lot of them are looking to new industries, and crypto is a big part of it. A lot of these guys are really looking at crypto stuff. So this does not surprise me one bit, not even a little bit, because they know it's coming. I love these awkward, like, photo handshake, these super awkward, like, press photos. It's so funny. Green Blue Algo says maybe we could crowdfund Algo Chainlink integration. Yeah, well, we kind of are anyway, right? Because, like, Algorand would probably spend treasury money to get integrated. That's why I want Algorand to make more revenue, so they can take some of that revenue and put it to grow the chain. Right now, it's kind of going the other way. So that is, I believe, all our Chainlink news. Yep, that's it. So thanks for tuning in for that stuff. Let's see, I can catch up with chat. Green Blue Algo said looking forward to a Jaws interview to discuss. Yeah, there's some, that is in the works. I will tell you that's in the works. Green Blue says if you bought a Hellcat instead of Bitcoin, you would have missed out on 4 Bitcoin at the same price. It's kind of random. Why a Hellcat? How much is a Hellcat? I'm going to look it up. Oops, I'm on Google. Hellcat Charger, 2023 Dodge Challenger STR Hellcat having a starting MSRP of around $72,000. Why 2023? Oh, they were discontinued in 2023. You can get a Dodge Challenger for 2019. You can get for $54,000. That's nearby me. Some of them are a lot more. 2023s are like, oh, they're like 180. That's interesting. They almost appreciated it as much. Well, no, they didn't. Well, no, you still would have done better with Bitcoin, but interesting. Army folks like Hellcats. Oh, I didn't know that. They are pretty cool. I mean, not as cool as my Mazda 3. Okay, you laugh at that, but you know what? I've had that car for 10 years, actually 12, going on 12 years. Next summer it'll be 12 years. I've only had to take it to the repair shop once for something that wasn't basic maintenance. I'm like all in on Mazda. They're so good. That's the most important thing. If I can get to point A to point B and not have to worry about my car, whether it's going to start or it's going to break down, I care about that so much more than how it looks. And it's not a bad looking car. I mean, it's not like, you know, obviously it's a normal sedan, but, you know, they did a pretty good job making it look decent, I thought. It was right in the year where they actually changed it around and made it look a little sporty. It's a good car. Serves me well. And also, I'm like, I have a dog, so they beat the crap out of these cars. You know, it's always full of dog fur, and she likes to jump in the mud when we go mountain biking, so it's always full of dirt. Green Blue says Gary Gensler was January 12th, 2023. Oh, I see what you're saying. I get what you're saying. Yeah, I'm big on Mazda for sure. Okay, we got I think we're gonna do the Ondo segment next. I may need to take a little break. I might skip the Algorand. We'll look at a couple Algorand things, but I might save that. I might save that for like a regular video. Let's see. Okay, I'm going to take a little break. I'm going to take a little break and just leave the markets up here for a second. So just give me a second and we'll get through the Ondo segment. I just gotta hit the can a little bit here. All right. Okay, I'm back. Thanks for allowing me to get that little bit of a break. Get a little bathroom break there, and we get some Ondo news to get through. So, as you guys know, I tend to go through the segments, and when I do that, I don't comment on chat unless it is directly related to what we're talking about. So we will do that. And any chats that are unrelated, I will address after we get through the segment. And I do that so I can clip them for YouTube later. But appreciate everyone turning in here today. So we're going to look at Ondo Finance and RWAs. All right. Ondo Finance is one of the blockchains that is leading the way in RWA, that is real world assets. We got a report coming out that mentions Ondo a whole bunch of times and is showing how much progress that Ondo is making in the real world asset sector. We're going to start out with this one. This post comes from Armin Khatri, who's the ecosystem at Ondo Finance, Base, and Coinbase. So some pretty big stats there. We'll give him a follow, in fact. 36 mentions of Ondo Finance in the 2025 RWA report by Dune. My favorite being the feature on Ondo Global Markets, which has since grown to over 200 million TVL. See the full report. I want to see that little thing, so let's go here and make sure we're still... Move that. Shoot. Okay. We're going to be a little cut off there, but Ondo Global Markets on September 3rd. Ondo Global Markets launched with 100 plus tokenized U.S. stocks and ETFs, the largest offering among providers. Within 3 days, it surpassed 63 million TVL, with ETFs making up over 53% of the total ahead of stocks. That's amazing. That's really amazing. We can move this up a little maybe, huh? No, we can't. Using direct tokenization, transfer restricted tokens as settlement instructions to a regulated broker-dealer, Ondo avoids wrappers or SPVs, ensures compliance, and taps existing exchange liquidity. Unlike AMM-based models, trades route directly into NASDAQ, New York Stock Exchange order books, eliminating impermanent loss and fragmentation. This is really important. I think if you're going to do real-world assets, you cannot do AMA. You cannot do AMAs because you just mess it up. Like I said, the fragmentation is what really matters. That's what happens. That's what happened with Lofty. They introduced an AMM, and suddenly the price of the tokens had nothing to do. It was completely divorced from the price of the actual asset. So that stuff is really important. Ondo is thinking about this very, very strongly. So RWA account 103, which is 63.5 million in value, up 210% on the 30 days and 15% market share. You can see the little TVL here. I like that chart. Very interesting stuff. So yeah, I think a really important point about when you handle real world assets, like this is the way you do it. It has to be direct tokenization. And that's something I'm going to consider a really important metric, maybe not metric, but important standard for anything in the RWA sector. If it is not directly tokenized, then I'm just not going to mess with it because it's not real RWA. It's like a synthetic then. But that is not all. You can read this if you follow Aman Khatri. You can read the whole thing and check it out, which is pretty interesting. I might do some reading on that later. And it looks like we got a little Ondo-Say partnership here going on. Launch of Ondo Global Markets marks a big step for tokenization with 1.5 billion in TVL and now moving towards 64 trillion equities market. The scale is clear. USDY, that's the US dollar yield coin from Ondo, is coming to Say network, with Ondo driving products and Say delivering the settlement layer built for speed. Markets move faster on Say. Well, I don't know a ton about Say, but definitely am a big fan of Ondo, and this sounds like a really smart partnership for them to do. Green Blue Algo says rolling down the street buying Ondo. Yeah, I like that. Sipping on gin and juice. Everyday Algorand says, I don't get this. If it's not AMMs, then it is not tokenized. Yeah, actually it is, because it's based on the actual price of the token. That is so much more important than having a separate chain. Otherwise, you just have a synthetic token that isn't based on the price of the actual asset. And then what's the point? Here's the leaderboard for the most adopted RWAs on Ondo Global Markets so far. So it's a big global markets section today. We got Tesla with 185 holders, SP500 ETF with 176, Nvidia 153, Apple 139, Nike 121, NASDAQ 81, Google 49, Circle 43, 20-year bond ETF 40, and Robinhood 36. I'm actually kind of surprised to see more people holding Tesla than holding 176. By the way, he says, what's the point if not to use it in DeFi? Well, actually, the point is to open up the markets to way more people than normally could buy stocks. That's the point. This is from Kyron, by the way. That's really something. I'm very surprised that there's more Tesla than SP 500. I would think the S&P 500 would be your top one. That's just me, though. I think this is a little bit interesting too. We can get into this one. To those still thinking Ondo is a scam, that's what I wrote in my DMs and comments. Time to get on board or block my account. Ondo, remember recap September to remember recap the month the rails turned on. So he's just talking about the global markets. I thought I'd share this one. I guess we can see it on screen here. Treasury market caps. Ethereum, Solana, XRP, Polygon. Big thing on Ethereum here. USD Treasury market caps more on Ethereum than any other. That's a lot. But look at that growth. Look at that growth. That's tremendous. Guess we can read the whole tweet here. Then came the so he talks about the US stocks and ETFs live on Ethereum. But then he says, then came the Fidelity headline, Ondo's OUSG wasn't just involved, it was the sole anchor and largest investor in Fidelity's first tokenized money market fund. That's institutional alignment on-chain with Ondo and the spine. Days later, Larry Fink, CEO of BlackRock, publicly declared that ETFs will lead financial tokenization, a direct validation of the rails Ondo had already shipped. The credibility snowballed. Andy Bode, Ondo's chief strategy officer, took the message to the floor of the New York Stock Exchange, projecting the same exponential growth for tokenized equities that we've already seen with the tokenized treasuries. And now with today's release of RWA Report 2025, which we just covered, Ondo has capped the month by showing up as the clear leader across every major chain with over 1.4 billion in tokenized treasuries deployed via OUSG and USD. Why? This isn't just a good week or isn't just a good month. It was the month that the market saw who's actually building the rails and who's still waiting for permission. I think it's a great, I don't think he's wrong. I mean, I think a lot of chains are doing really great work. So I don't want to like pretend Ondo is the only one doing it. But as far as like tokenized real world assets, I think Ondo is really kicking butt right now. Absolutely. By the way, this guy, Andy Bode, he's got like some crazy bona fides. Great person, great get to have on Ondo's team. Green Blue Algo says, I want to buy coffee with Ford shares. Yeah, by the way, well, I'll get to that in a second. Yeah, we already covered that. I think we kind of covered this too, that Ondo smashes another all-time high in TVL, 1.63 billion locked. Now, I know some people, criticize TVL, and there is some criticisms of TVL because as the price goes up, TVL will go up, but that doesn't necessarily mean that more coins have come on chain, so it can kind of, you have to understand it for what it is, I guess, is the best way I can put it. I've been saying for a while now, Ondo remains one of my highest conviction plays. Well, I'm definitely a fan. Yeah, so we can just see that DeFi Llama chart. I mean, that is a upward chart. That's crazy. That's crazy. So if you guys don't understand why I'm big on Ondo lately, well, this is why. Yeah, people just generally celebrating the news, which is good to see. And I think that might be my last. Oh, we got one more. 288 billion tokenized, trillions to go. Oh, I was on the other one. Sorry about that. That's a little hard to see. 280 billion in stable coins, 7.5 billion in US treasuries, and 500 million tokenized stocks. That's a lot. Yeah, so I'm definitely a big fan of Ondo. This is why I think you guys are getting that impression now. Very awesome to see. And what's Ondo doing right now? We could just take a quick look at that. Down a little bit today. Along with everything else, down about 4% on the week even. But up on the month. I think I bought around here, so I'm up a little, maybe around here, maybe here. I think I bought here, so I'm up a little bit, not too much, maybe around here. I think I bought it at 101 or something like that. Probably should have bought a long time ago. What about a year? How's it been doing for a year? Yeah, I mean, kind of like with everything else, it did this you know, this is when Algorand went crazy, Hedera went crazy, all the real world asset, all the utility coins really went crazy up here. We all remember that. And then, you know, we had that pullback, everything pretty much pulled back. So not that much of a surprise. You know, actually did better. I don't think it pulled back quite as much as, like, say, Algorand did. But yeah, kind of holding steady. Trade Thompson says, why so much price volatility in Ondo? Well, it's welcome to crypto. they all got volatility. I would hang on, you know, that, like I said, the fourth quarter is huge for crypto, generally speaking, especially in the bull run. I think we're going to see a huge quarter four, especially with interest rates starting to drop. We had 25 basis points on Wednesday taken down. We're probably going to have more. Actually, I didn't even mention that. I probably should have mentioned that earlier, but 25 basis points cut on Wednesday. Likely, I think we'll probably see one more before the end of the year, at least. That tends to be good for markets overall. My stocks are doing amazing, and I think we'll see crypto bounce as well. So keep an eye out for that. But I think that's all of our Ondo news today. Yeah, so Green Blue Algae says, I want to buy coffee with Ford shares. I was going to bring that up because actually I usually get Lavazza, and I was getting the big bag of espresso Lavazza for only like $15. And that bag will last me like 6 weeks. Now it went up to like 20. A lot of my stuff has gone up to 20, which makes me think that we're probably looking at some price hikes because a lot of my Amazon orders suddenly went up like 25%. So it was interesting because initially there wasn't, you know, people were talking about tariff inflation and we hadn't really seen it. But I think what happened is a lot of the companies tried their best to absorb the increases, but now it's getting to be too much and they can't pass it on. So you're going to start seeing prices go up. And I don't really understand the point of the tariffs totally. I think having some is okay, but, you know, set some tariffs and then let's just forget about it because, you know, I do think if the countries are charging us tariffs, we should probably charge them a little bit of tariff back. Like, it doesn't have to be excessive though. And I think it will lead to higher consumer prices. Let's see, chat's kind of quiet. My voice is really starting to go. I don't have it in me for another segment. But if you guys have stuff you want to ask about, feel free. You know, it might be fun. I'm just going to go through some questions I get. Actually, let me go to Studio. I think it's kind of fun just to go through the comments and see what I get. Although I have to go through all this spam, which really sucks. I take the unresponded thing come out. It would be way more fun if every day it says I bought some Lavazza in Italy and there is no marking on the cover that is protected by blockchain. Yeah, they don't put anything on it. They should put the Algorand logo on it. I mean, they probably sell more. Because the people who don't care about crypto would just ignore it, but the people who like crypto would actually, you know, buy it for that reason. I bought it just because of that. It's actually really good coffee. Oh God, the spam is so terrible. And by the way, you can't get rid of it. I mean, you can get rid of it, but it's a never-ending task. Some of them, it's like, oh, a nice comment. You're one of the rare crypto YouTube channels that actually delivers substance, not just boring regurgitated talking points. And then he brings up some crap coin, some crap XA coin. This would have been really fun, but I wish YouTube would do more about getting rid of the spam. How do they allow it? I just don't get it. Someone said, what's on Stargate? Gone, make Hedera moon. I don't know what that means. You get weird comments, you know. Aftermath of what utility-based tokens do you think have potential on Algorand? That's a good question. So I am a big fan of, in fact, I'll show you what I'm a big fan of. Actually, we'll go to this one. Maybe this one. So I'm a big fan of alpha. I like the prediction market. And this is why. This is the tokenomics are really good, so they've actually stayed fairly stable, which is amazing. Usually don't get this kind of stability in ASAs. And what's cool is if you hold alpha, you get payments in USD, which is pretty neat. Oops. Excuse me. Sorry about that. And then the other one I like is Haystack. Now, Haystack, to be 100% transparent, is a sponsor of the channel. And they've taken a very, I'm going to go to the, oh, we're on daily. Yeah, we can stay with daily. Actually, let's go to 4 hour. So this is Haystack, is a very easy tradable, it's a very easy tradable coin trading app on Algorand, made to be like so simple anyone can use it. There is a link in my description if you want to check it out. I'm a big fan of these guys, and this is made by the Transaction Labs folks, the same one that do non-fungible domains and they made the Ready pools. Following similar tokenomics to get to this, they just found a way to make these coins like fairly stable and go steadily up, which is really, really interesting. Let's see. So those are the two that I like, and I say that I like that I'm using both of them for various reasons. But I don't consider that investment advice. So, you know, anything you put into an ASA, you should treat as if maybe it's gone. You know, treat it like buying the lottery or something. Although I do think I have been doing the experiment, and you get regular payments with alpha, and those fees come from their fees for using that people pay to use the network. What utility? Okay, so and why? So we did that. Lavazza is the New Jersey Turnpike coffee of choice. Well, I like it here in the middle of the Midwest too. Robert Zielinski says Redstone. I don't know what that means. Catlin says, any news on Algo League? Haven't been paying much attention to Algo news much. Algo League. Have they been tweeting lately? I actually have an Algo League NFT, and I haven't done anything with it. I can't stand Discord. I tried to make a Discord, and I can't stick with it because I just don't like it. Every time I want to do something and I think, oh, this is a way I could actually use Discord to be useful, then it just doesn't work. Oh, Algo Leagues. They're actually a follower. I'm not following them back. Sorry, guys. I've unlocked a new way to strengthen ALC in the league's future. When you download and sign up for the HeyDApp app through our referral link, 100% of the referral proceeds will be deposited directly into Myth Finance, ALC Algo LP. So you can actually help fund the network. You can actually fund the network if you sign up for their link. I think you should sign up through mine personally, but that's just me. We got 2 new servers hosting the Algo League bot. Add a native. So you can learn about Algo Leagues and earn some ALC. I don't know how much that is. You get 69 of them. Wonder where they came up with that one. Is this still an Algorand, or I'm sorry, is this still a Discord game? If it's a Discord game, I'm just not going to do it. I'm just not interested in those. Make a damn website. That's what I'm going to say. Okay, well that's our little deep dive into Algorand. Cafe Silo says, get ready to make your videos why Algorand didn't have a bull run. Yeah, we'll see. We'll see. Monday is Algoland. See everyone there. Yeah, I cannot get any info about what that's going to be other than some giveaways. Like, I hope it's more than that, but I offered to make videos for them. They talked about, I had that contract and we talked about renewing the contract. They asked me if I wanted to renew it. I said yes, and then I haven't heard anything from them since. I even reached out and said, hey, it'd probably be really helpful to like make some make some Algorand videos for you guys, because since you got this going, that'd be a really good thing to do. And I just can't get any response, so I don't know what's going on there. Everyday Algonaut says, how much payment and absolute value have you received from Alpha? It tends to be about anywhere between 2.5 and 5 cents every 3 to 4 days. So hold on. I haven't updated it in a little while. And I'll have to do a little update at some point soon. So for $100, yeah, so in June it was about half a cent a day for $100 invested, which was about 1.8%. Then I actually in July actually came out with 23 cents. So it increased quite a bit. Actually, that math doesn't make sense. I have to look. I have to look at that. I think that math is wrong. But I had marked down that my total alpha was 326. I started out with $100 worth of alpha. Caitlin Guzman says, I used to do battles. Yeah, I used to do the battles on Discord. Everyday Algorand says, do you have any news on regarding the Folks token? There was a little video about that. I'll share in a second here. Redstone Oracle started with cooperation with Solana. We'll have to take a look at that at some point. Yeah, interesting. Trey Dobson says, need to tailor Algorand for onboarders. Onboarding, or Algorand, I'm sorry. Yeah, hopefully that's something they're doing. Hopefully that's something we'll see coming up. I like I said, I just have not seen any information about it. I shouldn't say any, very, very little. Before we go, let's find that Folks video. I actually responded to it. So I thought it sounded like it was coming, but hold on a second. Zach says, look in Agora, please. Yeah, we did the Agora segment a little while ago. We'll probably do another one soon. Yeah, here it is. Hold on. Come on. Well, here we can, in the meantime. Begum says, thanks for joining the Puffs. Oh, you bet. I talked about that on stream a little bit earlier. Begums was on, well, it's not playing now.
Hello everyone. Today I wanted to give an official update for our upcoming Folks token launch. I know you are waiting for it, us as well. The last thing that we are missing before this to be possible is our entity Algorand integration to be ready for the launch. I want to explain why this is important. Basically, being our token launched across multiple networks, there is the need of having a fast and reliable transfer across those venues where the token is available. It is currently being audited. It requires a few weeks for this audit to be completed. Hopefully there aren't major changes that need to be done, so we can do the fixes and quickly later proceed with our token launch. Please give it a bit more of time. We are almost ready, and Folks is upcoming and it's going to be successful. Thank you.
Hopefully it's a little more successful than the cards that they did. Does anyone know what those actually do? I know people were not thrilled about those at all. Well, anyway, so that's your Folks update. It's coming. Sounds like it's pretty close to coming. Yeah, let's just see. Okay, we'll look at Gora really quick here. Well, this is back on July 4th. Yeah, we covered this MasterCard news. Let's see. They got DAO proposal. Looks like there was some security issue with the GoraBots website. Wonder if that was just recently. So keep an eye out for that. I've worked on some maintenance and general improvements to the Agora.fi site to make staking tools for Agora, Algorand more efficient. So share your feedback with us on Discord. I think I'm still staking some Agora. I don't know what happened to it. I haven't checked it in a while. Yeah, so there's a new proposal if you want to go check that out. We covered the sandbox as a service. We already covered that. Green Blue says, I think folks is probably working to try to work on tokenomics. Otherwise, they would open up the airdrop check page. Well, like I said, they got that one NTT integration that they want to figure out yet before they jump ahead. So that is Gora. That's what's most happening recently. Well, this is a great stream. We had a really nice audience today. I appreciate people tapping in. A pretty good YouTube audience, not so much on X today, which is kind of interesting. Usually it's it's still higher on X, but I think last time we had up to almost 300 people on X, and not so many people but we have more people on YouTube than usual, which is great. I'm really waiting for X to kick in the monetization, and I don't know why they haven't done that yet. Well, everyone, thanks so much for tuning in. Appreciate everyone's time, and I hope we had a good time today. Some great videos that we'll have to clip up later. And Monday we'll have some more Algorand news, of course, as we always do. Otherwise, do smash the like button. Savage Juicebox saying, I appreciate that. Or you can just press it gently, as I always say. Either way works fine. However you hit that like button, give it a good like. If you haven't subscribed already, please do so. And we do have channel memberships where you can get extra content as well as videos before anyone else. So be sure to pop in, starting at only $1. That's pretty cheap. And you can be one of the Frugalnauts. Catlin saying, thank you, take care. Yeah, appreciate you being here so much. Thank you so much. Thanks, everyone, for being here. I think we had a great show. And, enjoy your weekend. Keep an eye on those markets. Otherwise, touch some